Hello, and welcome to Hunter Fuel, a supernatural rewatch podcast for adults who enjoy their show with a chaser. I am Liz.
And I am Lynn.
Thanks so much for joining us for season 1, episode 17, Hell House. We model responsible drunkenness here. All participants are just a skosh over 21. No one is pregnant. No one will be driving, handling weapons, operating heavy machinery, or bringing Tibetan thought forms to life. If you're playing along with us, those are the rules. If you decide not to follow them and you do something stupid, don't blame us. Lynn, what are you drinking this evening?
I am doing a pomegranate Cosmo.
Sorry, I'm hunting around because, well, first of all, that sounds delicious. I'm hunting around because I have this in my hand and then I forgot where I put it. But I got the cocktail for this episode out of the Supernatural official cocktail book. It is called a Carajillo, and it is 2 ounces of liqueur 43, 1/2 ounce of mezcal, 2 ounces of chilled espresso. I have used decaf because I want to sleep sometime between now and next Tuesday, and an orange twist. The reason why I picked this one out is it says the Carajillo likely doesn't pack enough mystical power to overcome supernaturally induced terrors, but several hunters have found it helpful when they know a case will force them to confront personal phobias. And it's the name itself means courage. Lore claims these precise ingredients can work as a fortifying potion when the drinker focuses their mind on their fearsome task at hand. So I thought that that was an appropriate one for this particular episode. So with that, Wizard Dave, if you could bring up our Supernatural game cards for us, please. I don't even know what to say, honestly, because every time I think I'm not going to do well, I end up having too good of a card, and every time I think it's going to go poorly, well, I just said the same thing twice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
I, I, I'd say maybe I've got three, and that I think is including the free space.
well, let's see how this one goes. As always, the first one is on the house. So cheers.
There's, so yeah, I was running just a tad bit behind schedule. And part of it was because I was tearing the house apart looking for my shot glass, which I still can't find. So, hence why I am not drinking out of a shot glass tonight, because I know I washed it and I have
It
no idea
has
it has decided to vanish into thin air. So,
somewhere it has gone. It's a mystical disappearance we will have to investigate.
yes.
Well,
So, let's get this show on the road.
here we
And
go.
we are back to our usual recap of that we've seen God knows how many times. So of the brothers just saying dad's on a hunting trip, hasn't been home, and we see the book and and Dean saying we've got to do follow the family business. Sam saying I've got to go and find dad. It's all I can think about. And now we are in Richardson, Texas, which it turns out is the actual hometown for Jensen Ackles.
It is, which means right off the bat, we have a meta moment. But let's let this play out just for a second. Um, Go ahead.
So we have a bunch of teenagers that have decided to work their way up to this creepy ass house, and this girl has some sense in saying there's no way in hell I'm going in there. And I would personally agree with her.
Oh, hell yeah. There's no way. This
And
is this is not fun.
Yeah, no, and I love this. And he goes, "Want to hold my hand?" And she does decide to take it up with it until he says, "Are there any other parts I can hold?" And she very appropriately rips her hand back and goes, "Ew."
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, that is not the appropriate response there, sir.
yeah.
Not at
Now,
all.
now notice that symbol that they very briefly kind of highlighted there, because that symbol is going to come back along with that one. Those two
Yeah.
are very key symbols in this episode. So
Anytime the camera lingers on something for a second, it's usually something that's important for us to kind of file away as something that could come up later.
yeah. So they're wandering around this god awful house, and that he's like, "Yeah, my cousin told me all about the story about how this creature apparently just takes girls and strings them up to the rafters."
Mhm.
And he, and everyone is kind of looking around quite skeptically, which, I mean, who can blame them? But let's be honest, this place is creepy as all hell.
Yeah, this place is pretty creepy. I do love
Yeah.
this line where Satan cans his vegetables.
That does crack me up. So
I think
there,
it's kind of fun that there, we can see kind of the different reactions, the sensible one is like, "Oh hell no, I'm not going in here." There's this kind of fun shot of the one guy like holding the flashlight under his face and kind of a
yeah.
like ooh spooky story.
And
Like some people are buying it, some people are not, and oh look,
there's a girl hanging from the rafters who looks quite dead,
indeed she
or
does.
as we are led to believe. So we are now in present day Interstate 35, which, if that's truly an interstate, that's the most pathetic interstate I've ever seen.
Well, yeah, this is okay. I don't know a whole lot about interstates in Texas, but that does seem to be a somewhat smaller road than one would expect for an interstate. I have paused it, so let's take a look at our supernatural game cards and see if either one of us has a meta moment. I
Uh,
I do. I have one.
Yay!
Comes for me. Which, by the way,
I do
Lynn, I
not.
know that you are not a coffee drinker, so this is not going to be of interest to you. But if any of you folks out there enjoy espresso, this is super tasty.
Yeah, which means I will hate that with a seething passion.
You would not enjoy it. You're not a fan
Yeah.
of the coffee beans.
Yeah, well,
While we
the coffee beans and I had a major disagreement when I was about 15.
yes, yes, coffee beans won.
Yeah.
While we have it paused here, so Lynn, did you have a meta moment while you were looking?
Nope. No, I did not.
Okay. So while we have it paused, if you're watching this on Netflix, the song that's playing here is Blue Oyster Cult, Fire of Unknown Origin. And what I think is kind of fun about this is, and we had talked about this, that this first season, they didn't have the streaming rights to the music because nobody knew that that was something they should include in the agreements. Um, but not only has Netflix replaced the song, they even had to re-edit the scene a little bit because there's a brief period where Dean sings along to the Blue Oyster Cult song, and you can clearly see his lips moving to the lyrics of Fire of Unknown Origin. So they had to cut out a couple of seconds of the scene when they, excuse me, when they use that. Uh, because otherwise he would
Yeah.
be singing along to the wrong song.
Song. Minor detail.
Minor, minor. All
Minor,
right.
minor.
Moving on.
All righty. So we are in the car, and Dean has figured out that his brother is sound asleep and decides, it's that this is way too peaceful. I need to have some fun with this, and decides to shove a spoon in his mouth and promptly takes a picture of it.
And
Which,
you like in today's technology, how crappy is that picture going to be?
yeah,
It's going to
just
be
quite.
so pixelated.
And then, of course, in traditional guy cranks the music up, which of course wakes Sam up, and he is startled by having this probably slightly grubby spoon just from the reaction of him trying to get stuff out of his mouth, and you can see him kind
Yeah.
of like pat.
Yeah, you know,
And
Dean did not get like a sanitary plastic spoon out of a wrapper so that it's sterile before he jams it in Sam's mouth.
so I have to pause this for a second because I love this conversation they have. So they decide, he's like, "Oh, can we not start this again of having this prank thing going on?" And he's like, "Oh, come on!" And he goes, "What, Sammy? Afraid of a little nair in your shampoo again?" So A, we have a Sammy.
Mhm.
And B, I just love that. He goes, "All right, bring it on, Baldy."
I know.
I just
Clearly, this is
I
something that has happened before to the brothers.
yes, yes,
So
clearly.
So while we're checking our cards for a Sammy here, which I do not appear to have, um,
Uh
if we hadn't gotten a meta moment for the Richardson
oh,
Texas.
I do have one.
Oh, good for you. You have one. I oh, here's a question. Would this
Okay.
be a joke about Sam's hair?
Ooh.
Wizard Dave
Uh,
votes
says
yes. I
yes.
vote yes. Okay, we're
Okay, well,
calling this a joke about Sam's hair. So that means I don't have a Sammy, but I do have
uh
one of those.
okay, let's hear. I have a joke about Sam's height,
Right.
and I do not have a joke about Sam's hair,
Hmm.
but I
So
do have
one
a
each,
Sam.
but not the same one. Um, okay, so again, while we have it paused, so Jared and Jensen would play like they were sort of infamous for playing pranks on set. And they started out pranking one another, but they realized pretty quickly it would escalate to some
Yep.
dangerous leather levels rapidly, and that they made a better team pranking everybody else.
I
Which
can believe.
as yeah.
Do I?
Oh,
Huh?
Wizard Dave, ever eagle-eyed.
Okay, I see a joke about Sam's height.
Oh, eagle-eyed
Dang
Dave needs his glasses.
it.
No. It's okay, so apparently I need to adjust the wording on those slightly so they're easier to tell apart. Lynn has a joke about Sam's height, not his
yes,
hair.
yes.
Um, okay, so I will note to self, I will make that correction there. But again, as we see this episode play out, we're going to see kind of a similar transition where they start out pranking each other, realize it escalates quickly,
Yep.
and then band together against a common enemy. All
Uh-huh.
right, we
All
uh
right.
we ready to roll here?
We are ready to roll.
Okay, hitting play.
Okay. So so then they start talking about this case that Sam
Mm-hmm.
is interested in, and it's about a mythological spirit that is stringing girls up to the rafters, and that a group of kids saw it, but no one did ID the corpse because by the time the cops got there, the body was gone. And
Mhm.
Dean is being very skeptical and feels that it, these kids might just be might just be pulling everyone's chains and all of that. And Dean is now having to admit that he kind of found this on a paranormal activity website that Dean then really starts to give him a hard time on because of course it's the all the information that he's got is from hellhoundslair.com. And he's like,
There is this. Go ahead.
and he's like, so let me guess, it sounds like something that comes out of mom and dad's basement. He's like, kinda. He's
Yeah,
like,
so Dean is questioning the legitimacy of this particular website. He does make a comment here about, people wouldn't know a ghost if it bit them in the persqueeter, which is exactly what you think it is. But it's a term that we don't hear terribly often. Like that was a term people used for about 10 minutes in 2005, and no one has said ever since. So,
so yeah, so Dean makes the comment of, well, where are we going to find these kids? And Sam, of course, goes, well, where do you ever find kids in tiny little towns like this? And it's a rodeo drive-in, so it's kind of a quirky diner.
it's a quirky diner, and I personally think that it's a play on Rodeo Drive. So instead of
Yeah.
Rodeo Drive, it's Rodeo Drive In.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but it
Yeah.
makes me giggle every time I see it.
Well,
So,
that's
okay,
good.
we have paused it here. So to the cards, let's see if either one of us has a
I
wacky diner. I
I
have a wacky diner.
I feel like I do, but I could be incorrect on this because upon first scan, I'm not
They're
seeing
racking
it.
up
But I
here.
but I thought you always do. Yes, I do.
All
Wacky
right.
Diner. Woo! So I do have a Wacky Diner.
All right. Here
Yay!
we go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. So this dialogue here cracks me up. Are we good? Are we good to keep this ball rolling?
Play on.
Play on. All right. So they they get all four of the kids talking, and in typical fashion, their stories could not be more different if they tried. They
I
don't
do love
agree
the
on
pentagrams. The pentagrams, Pentecostals.
red hair, blonde hair, black hair. Like nothing is correct. The only thing they can agree on is who sent them. That is quite literally the only thing
Yep.
they can agree on is that
Craig.
Craig took them. And
Craig.
Craig works in a record store. So
I do love,
often,
before we talk about the record store, I do love the creepy dude who was like, she was kind of hot, in a dead way. And
that's
Dean is like, okay then. Again, anytime Dean thinks your sexual tastes are questionable, you are in strange waters.
yes, 100%. So they are now in this record store and they are pretending that they are reporters from the Dallas Morning News.
Hmm.
And and of course Craig is like, "Oh yes, I'm also a writer. I'm on my school's lit paper." And they're like, "Okay, well we're doing an article on the haunting. You mean the Hell House?" Yes, exactly. So he starts telling them all about Mordecai, and
I'm going to
the
interrupt you just a second here. I love this moment where Craig walks over. I'm actually going to pause this briefly.
yep.
Craig walks over to the sort of desk here, the clerk's desk, and it's lit from underneath. So you get that like bottom up lighting as if he's telling a scary story around a campfire, just like one of his friends did at the Hell House. So I love. I'm going to assume this is Serge Laudicier, the cinematographer, and his lighting choice here, and I think it was great. Lynn, I assume you're about to tell us about this album that Dean has picked up.
You are 100% correct on that, because they showed it very, very, very briefly, but you could, when he
We have it
initially
paused on it, so we're getting a good look.
okay, see, I would have said it was paused the other way. So there is a symbol on that album, and that symbol becomes quite
No, not
key.
this one. Not this one. You're too fast.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you about a different album, and then Lynn is gonna. There's two albums here. I'm gonna tell you about one, and Lynn is gonna tell you about the other. And this is this bit we do where it looks like we're not coordinated and prepared. So this album that Dean picks up is called Point of No Return by Kansas, which includes one of their two best known songs, which is Dust in the Wind. We're going to talk a lot more about their first best known song, their most best known song, at a later point in the season. But this is a little bit of an Easter egg here, where Dean picks up this album. Okay, so what he's going to put that down, and he's going to pick up another album. And what is that one, Lynn?
And the next album that he picks up, let's see here. I'm going to hit pause. I'm going to unpause this just for a second. And he's
Hmm.
going to see. I
I
would have
think
said it was
you. I think you're just a little bit ahead. That
okay.
they're going to come back to the record store. Uh,
So, so and he picks up an album that has a symbol on it, and
mhm.
it becomes quite key. So he starts talking about the spirit of this house, and how Mordecai, hold on, I'm going to pause this. How Mordecai had these six daughters, and how his crops failed, and instead of making them starve to death, he captured each one, strapped them up one by one, and killed them all before turning it on himself. And so he has the guys believing that that is the true nature of the story,
Mhm.
which becomes very key.
That does.
So as we're going along here, he continues to explain all of this.
I
And
love how, like he's completely sincere. Like that girl was real and she was dead. And like he's
he,
selling it.
yes, he is 100% selling this. And so they're like, okay, thanks. They go back to the house, and so they're just heading back up there, and said, hey, can't blame the kid. Yeah, gotta love this curb appeal. I love that line.
Look how
Uh,
muddy this is. Oh boy.
oh,
So gooey.
so, and
So
then in just a second, I believe Dean, yep, grabs the EMF detector,
Dean
and
does have
it's
an EMF detector.
and it's going kind of crazy, but he blames the wires. And
Right.
he doesn't actually believe what the EMF detector is doing.
Hmm.
So they're just kind of wandering through this house.
We get a good look at symbol
Yeah.
number 2.
Mm-hmm. And they're kind of, now I love this part right here, because we get a really good look at these, and Sam goes through these
Mm-hmm.
and is really explaining like the difference of them, but it's like, wait a minute, like this like explains how they don't entirely make sense, because one of them, and I love this one line, explains that like one of the crosses was not popular until the 70s, or until the 60s, I'm sorry. And then and Dean goes, "That's exactly why you never get laid." Because
Which is hilarious because, like, Sam Sam gets laid. Like, we
uh-huh.
saw Jess.
I say,
You know, we
man's
saw Jess.
got
We
game.
saw Sarah. Like, Sam don't have no trouble getting laid when he wants.
Yeah, so just the fact that he happens to have different knowledge than Dean, but the yeah, man has no problem getting a girl.
No, this is just, Dean picking on his little brother, and any chance he has to bust Sam's chops, he's going to take, whether it makes sense or not.
So then we have this symbol that again,
Mhm.
Dean knows he's seen it from somewhere.
Right. So this is symbol number one, which looks like kind of an upside down question mark and a cross had a baby.
Yep. Yep, it's kind of a really, really, really weird hook. So, and this line, right, I'm starting to like the cops might be right on this one. How often have we heard Dean agree with the authorities?
It very rarely,
Next
but
to never.
yeah, it's a rare thing. However, this is a conversation they've had before and they will have again. I'm going to pause this because we're about to meet some fun folks here. Um,
I have nicknames for them.
and that's a question I have for you too. And we have to check our cards for the EMF detector while we've
Yeah.
got it paused. Um, but this is a conversation the boys have with some regularity throughout the run of the show. Is they're very aware of what their wheelhouse is. And if it's not a supernatural thing, then it's a human crime for the human authorities and like this is not our gig and they pack up and they move on. So while we have it paused, let's take a look at our cards, our supernatural game cards, and see if either one of us has an EMF detector. And
I,
I do not.
da,
I
da,
do not
da.
have one.
I, for some reason, I thought I did, but I'm not seeing it, and it's not exactly hard to spot, so I must be incorrect.
Well, I'm going to let you look for a moment. So the two characters they are about to meet are Harry Spangler and Ed Zeddmore. Spangler is played by Travis Wester. Travis appeared alongside Jensen in the late 90s in a teen sitcom called Mr. Rhodes. So the two of them had worked together previously. AJ Buckley would go on to star in a series called SEAL Team alongside Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel alumnus David Boreanaz. So I had watched SEAL Team first, and AJ Buckley is virtually unrecognizable. He got jacked for that role in SEAL Team. He looks huge. He is huge. He speaks with a different um voice, like he speaks with a fairly strong southern accent in SEAL Team. So the first time I saw this, I'm like, AJ Buck, where's AJ Buckley in this? I saw his name in the credits and I can't find him in this episode anywhere. And he's right here. He could not look more different than
Yeah.
he looks in SEAL Team. So again,
Man.
while we have it paused, let me ask you. Now you're giggling. So what do you? So let me just say this: these two characters are very divisive characters in the Supernatural family. So what did you think of them?
Honestly, I nicknamed them Dumb and Dumber.
So do you find them amusing, or do you want to claw your eyes out so you don't have to look at them one more minute?
I want to claw my eyes out at this moment. Now,
Oh.
if they come back and get a grip and all of that, but right now, it's Ghostbusters gone wrong, and I have nicknamed them Dumb and Dumber.
So let me say this now, and people have very strong visceral reactions to these two. People either love them or hate them. There doesn't
Uh,
seem to be anybody who is kind of in a take them or leave them camp. I think that they are hysterical. I laugh my ass off every second they are on screen. I think these two actors are genius. They just every single thing they do, I just crack up laughing. I think they're hilarious. So,
well, I'm sure they're supposed to be irritating in this one. So, in my opinion, they're doing what they're supposed to do, which is piss me off.
well, yeah, and that's the thing is people they piss people off, and man, I laugh till I hurt. So let us know in the comments what you think about Spangler and Zedmore. I've already
So,
told you what I think. I think they are
I,
comedy gold. So, okay, hitting play, moving on. So, Sam and Dean have just come through the door, and
yeah,
Spangler and Zedmore are shining giant
uh,
halogen flashlights in their
eyes and yelling, "Cut! What? Well, we belong here. We're professionals."
yeah.
And I love this
You
professional what?
oh my god, I love when he,
Paranormal.
like, holds up their cards and he goes, and he
Yeah, I know.
awesome.
You gotta be kidding with me. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. You gotta be kidding with
Oh,
and suddenly Sam realizes they run the website that he's been checking out and been getting all the stories from. So,
these are the Hellhounds Lair boys
yep, absolutely.
conducting a serious scientific investigation.
Yeah. But what cracks me up here is like they start explaining what an EMF detector is to the two of them. And I'm like, oh dear Lord, have mercy. So yeah, so they're explaining. I'll give them credit that they have one.
They
Now, whether,
do. They do. They've clearly purchased it from Radio Shack, but they have one.
yeah. So, and then they're like, well, have you ever actually seen a ghost? And they're like, once. And they're like, a big
Well,
spell,
we didn't
sort
really see it.
of. But we heard it. And
We
sometimes that
heard it.
changes you. And I'm like, oh dear God, help me. Um,
He was like, "Yeah, I think we get the picture here."
so yeah, and he's like, we should let them work.
And he's like, "All the pot we smoked gave me the
I
giggles."
know. It's like, oh my dear God. So they are
Yeah,
now at
they're
the
professionals.
public library, which apparently that library doesn't truly exist, but that's a whole different thing. And
Yeah, there's
so
lots of things that don't really ghosts don't really exist.
it
Well,
exists either,
uh,
but
I'm I might have stepped in it there, but like werewolves and vampires and things don't really exist either. So I'm okay with this not being a real library.
so they've been digging around and they're realizing that the kid's story is starting to fall apart, that nobody by that name has had that many children, let alone killed them, and and all of
It's
that.
holding
And
back,
now,
not getting in the car.
yep, because he has now pranked Dean, and I love that. One for me and
One for B. Yeah.
Bush League. But apparently, the Bush League is not a very strong.
No, it's not professional baseball.
Yeah.
Um,
So now we are back at the house. Sorry, this show likes to jump around a bit more than usual. So unless we want me pausing it every 2 seconds, I'm going to be jumping a bit around a
we're
bit more
just
than
gonna
usual.
move. We're gonna
Yeah,
roll with it.
we're gonna roll. So they are back at the house, And she has decided to take the dare over the truth. And he did give her the out of make out with me or go into the house. And she went for go into the house. And yeah, I don't think anyone else would have taken that dare.
Oh, I would not make out with that guy. Like, oh, I'm not saying he is not make outable were I a teenager and in his age bracket. But just it, I don't know. The guys in this episode are just super skeevy. That like one wants to grope you, another wants to just make out with you. Like, okay, pump the brakes, gentlemen. This
I
this
used to
is
say
not
that,
how you entice young ladies to want to date you.
sounds like typical teenage boys. Sorry, you're
Bingo.
typical.
Bingo. Take some advice from your Auntie Liz. This is not how you get girls to want to go out with you.
so anyways, yeah, but actually, never mind, I'm not going there. And anyway, so she is in the house and going through and all of that. And as she's creeping her way through this door, it's like, okay, this is the true setup for a stereotypical horror movie. Like
Oh yeah, this
going
is every
down
movie you've ever seen.
yeah, exactly. So with all of the oh god, those jars just are so
Jars are
disgusting.
creepy. Um, I do want to say I think that we missed a dude. So next time that we pause, we can we'll take a look at the cards, see about a dude. And then like, oh, she drops this jar. How
God.
bad does that jar have to smell? Seriously. Like that's
Yeah.
gotta just be an eye-watering stench.
Yeah, but now I mean you know that and there she is about to have a very bad day.
She is. So Mordecai jumps
But
her from behind.
and and she actually does end up in the rafters.
She does. He loops a noose around her neck. Um, so before we pause this, so one, I'm just going to tell you right now that this is one of my grammar hell things. They keep saying hung. It's hanged. A person is hanged. A guy might be well hung, but he is hanged from a gallows. So moving on then, I do love this little moment here where we get the boys are watching the coroners pull this young lady's body out. Dean says, "I think we
I think
missed something,"
miss some
and you can see it in their faces that
faces.
this guilt is weighing on them that they missed something and now a girl is dead.
I would say I don't know whether it was guilt or just pure like what the what the fuck like more just pure curiosity or like okay what the hell did we miss. I love this scene of I've got an idea and who do we call. I actually yell Ghostbusters. I love that.
They have all this gear and they're clanking around and they're like, shh, shh, shh. So, yeah, the boys have used this as a distraction to get in the house.
I mean, hell, it worked. I mean, they walked into that one. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. And there's that symbol again.
Another hard look at the symbol. I do love coming up here. So the boys come down the stairs, and there's this again. This is Serge, man. He's such a genius with the lighting. Dean picks up one of the jars,
Yep.
and the only thing that's lighting his face is the light reflected off the goo in the jar. So like he's in shadow, he picks up this jar here, and as soon as he shines the flashlight on it, the reflected light shines up into his face. And I just like who does that, right? Like who lights an actor's face with a reflection off a jar? Like that I'm telling you, man, Sayers is a just a freaking genius.
I love what he said. He says, "though, I dare you, I double dare you,"
Yeah.
and
Drink this
Tim's
jar. This is a
like,
great shot. The camera
yeah,
comes around him. Oh my goodness, gorgeous.
yeah, and you can they hear something in there, and he pulls it open, and it's just a rat. And this
Uh,
is when we find out that Dean really does not like rats. And then I love this. Sam goes, "You rather be a ghost?" Yes.
and then,
And
oh,
then
look, you're gonna
all
get
of
your
us,
wish.
yeah, huh? Because all of a sudden, boom, boom. And they look and they go, wait a minute, what the hell kind of spirit is immune to rock salt? Don't know. All right, so then
Oh, and here's another great shot where the
God,
jars like
gosh,
hover in midair for a second. Gorgeous.
yep. And now you see Mordecai just trashing the joint, absolutely trashing the joint and going after him. And oh,
Yeah. So now he has an axe. Oh
yep.
God, look, here's the way he's got his like night vision goggles like sideways on his face.
As I said, Dumb and
Hilarious.
Dumber.
Oh my God, they crack me up.
And then
Here
they
comes Sam
realize,
and Dina.
like, truly, and then they realize, holy crap, there's actually a ghost in there. And
Wait,
they
more
yell,
of the
run. And they
things.
run right into the cops. I mean, oh my dear God, have mercy.
Okay, let's pause this here. So we need to go back and check our cards for a dude. And
Uh,
then and then we've got a quirky motel room as well. So
yeah.
we can check for those two. I have a quirky motel room. I do not see that I have a dude. All right, so I'm
I
gonna do one
have,
for the quirky motel room.
I have neither.
Mm. So one for me. And then while we have it paused, I'm not going to say too much here, but there is another episode later in the series where the brothers are going to open a cabinet and something unexpected is going to pop out, and it's a fan favorite when it happens, and that's all I'm going to say about it now. So this is kind of a funny little unexpected foreshadowing for what we're going to see later. So. All right. So
Oh,
the last thing I'm going to mention is when the Spangler and Zeddmore are they're getting ready to go into the house, and they think that they've lost the police. They they kind of don't want to go in. They're trying to psych themselves up because they're scared to go into the scary house, which is totally normal. And then once it's just remember, what would John Edward do? John Edwards was a self-proclaimed psychic medium who was very popular about this time that this aired. So it's a fun little reference to him. Uh, all right, here we are in the quirky motel room. Take it away, Lynn.
all righty, hold on. All right, so now we're in the quirky motel room, and Dean is
And
still
this one's extra
obsessed.
quirky.
Yep, and Dean is still obsessed. I love that armadillo. That armadillo is so damn cute. And Dean is still obsessed with that symbol. And he's like, the whole job, the symbol is all bugging him. So they're just trying to figure out how in the world this is making any sense, because it's now the ghost is not following patterns
Mhm.
or anything. Like his mood keeps changing, and then they're realizing that the story on the website is changing,
Right.
and it's now he's a sadist that chops his victims up with an axe before he slits his throat. And Dean suddenly has a holy crap moment. I know where this whole thing has started, and he says, guess where we're going back to? And we get this quick picture of Mordecai, and we are back at the record store.
Mhm. So
And
here's
now
the
we
album you were talking about earlier.
so now we're with Craig, and Craig is not in the mood to talk.
Not to
Not
them.
Nope. He is not even slightly in the mood. So Dean is on the hunt for an album because he knows exactly where he spotted that symbol, and that is on a record album that he is about to confront Craig with. And I love this line coming up here about when he says about scaring the hell out of people.
Yeah. Are you into
And he
blue
says,
oyster?
can you fill us in without lying through your ass?
Yeah.
So start telling the truth. And we realize that this entire thing was all a lie. That
Yeah.
he and his cousin made the entire thing up, that they found the house, they made it look haunted. She painted the symbols on the walls from some of her theology textbooks and all that. And they even, like, her hanging was even faked. Everything about it was faked. And then the story got out, and it's taken on a life of its own. And and he's now like, this was all supposed to be a joke, and now somebody's dead. So he's feeling a tremendous amount of remorse, and just, yeah, this was not the way this plan was supposed to go.
Yeah, this was all supposed to be fun and games, so I have paused it here. Just the one thing I want to mention is the actor who plays cousin Dana, her name is Kristen Bell, Krista Bell, not Kristen Bell, that's a different person, Krista Bell, and she was a stunt performer on the show. So she doubled a lot of the guest actors who would come in. So like Linda Blair and other folks who are going to come in later. People I don't want to mention too much. But if there's a petite lady on the show, she probably did the stunt performing for that person. So the in part because they were going to have these like close-ups of her hanging with a noose around her neck, they had her do all of the on-screen work for that character. Excuse me. The other thing is one of these two scenes that were filmed in the record store. They've told this story at conventions a couple of times, that Jared and Jensen had a a a real falling out, and it's one of those things where, like, they've been friends for the better part of 2 decades at this point, and they've both said, like, "We don't even remember what this fight was over," So I suspect it was one of those, like, long hours, not enough sleep, tensions, kind of get amplified. And they ended up they almost came to blows, and they had to walk it off. Um, and the two of them sat down after and said, like, look, for the sake of our friendship, for the sake of this show, because like this show rests on the relationship between these two brothers. And if we can't sell that, this show is over. So what happened in that record store cannot happen again. And they said, and it never has. Again, not that they don't have occasional disagreements, but like something that got like that out of proportion, that and so it's kind of interesting that like they both kind of point to it as being sort of a defining moment in their friendship, that having that level of thing go wrong, and being able to kind of work through that, it built the foundation that their friendship is based on. And I gotta say, like, again, watching these scenes, if you hadn't heard them tell that story, you'd never know anything was going on here. So I think that's kind of a fun thing that they can point to sort of early in the show. Last thing I'm going to mention, and then we'll keep this rolling, is Craig here. He makes this comment that everything just took on a life of its own. So I think that's a fun little wink in his dialogue here.
Very cool.
All right,
And
moving
so,
on.
yep, moving right on along. uh, so, so yeah, so we're just still in this conversation of it supposed to being a joke. And he,
And you can see he's cut up
yeah,
about it. Like, this was
I was
supposed
gonna
to be
say,
funny. I didn't want
mm-hmm,
anybody to die.
I was like, he's like practically in tears, and
He is.
so so Nadine says, if this was a joke, what the hell is with Mordecai? Like, it's like,
Right.
okay, like all of a sudden, this is turned into something supernatural, even if it wasn't supposed to be originally. So now
Yeah.
we see Dean with itching powder, which he is now sprinkling all in Sam's underwear.
It's just,
You want to talk about the prank to one of the more stereotypical pranks.
yeah,
And
this is
now
just mean. But
we have,
reward for us.
yeah. But now, if you look really carefully in this scene, you can actually see that Sam has black shorts on underneath that
He
towel.
does. He does, which I'm okay with that. However, I am going to pause it here. So as they're collecting their coffees,
Yep.
go
The
ahead.
the guy actually says, "Here you go, Jensen
Here you
versus
go,
Dean."
Jensen. Which the subtitle people have put gents, Gents, to try to like, oh crap, what are we gonna do? So yes, there's a little outtake here. But so I don't mind the fact that because Jared has not in fact just gotten out of the shower. I understand. Like, the towel is a costume he has been provided with by wardrobe for this scene. But the shirtless Sam here was in direct response to a request from fans. Because again, they kept advertising this show as like hot guys, hot show. And the fans were like, come on,
Yeah.
we want to see some shirtless men here. So they're like, all right, here you go.
I was like, I'm definitely not complaining. I was one of
Oh, no
them.
complaints here. No complaints. All right. So moving on here. And poor
And
poor
you can
Sam is
see
digging at his crotch.
say Sam is cringing, trying very subtly to not show how miserable he is. They're they're talking about here how there is a symbol that they saw also in the house, that if people look at it while thinking about something, it can actually magnify people's thoughts. And that when the guy and his cousin put this up, they probably didn't even realize what they were doing. But this particular Tibetan symbol actually is basically like, has been used for centuries to concentrate, um when to make it so that when people are meditating, it magnifies their thoughts. So the thought that Sam comes up with is that if everyone on the website is staring at that thing and thinking about Mordecai, it could technically make the guy come to life.
It could. So one, we just saw Dean drink his coffee. So we have a Dean eats or drinks, which we'll look at. I think at this point, we can call this a summoning ritual.
I could see that because I mean theoretically there someone is thinking about it and it's an inadvertent summoning
It's
ritual.
accidental, yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah, but
inadvertent. They didn't plan to, but they have in fact summoned something.
I'm definitely up for that argument.
Okay.
And
So,
I don't even think it's a stretch. I think it's
so all right, we're gonna check our cards in a second here, but Sam has just realized
I he's so
why his
itchy.
nether regions are also itchy.
Yeah, and he says, "You're a freaking jerk," and Dean is absolutely loving it.
Yeah, Dean's happy. He's gotten one over. Okay, so we're gonna pause this. Let's take a look at
At
our
our
cards
cards,
here.
and let's see if I
Supernatural. Do we have a Okay, I
summon.
have a summoning ritual. And
I so do I. Summoning ritual.
is there something else we're looking at for?
I
Oh,
feel I
Dean's
Dean
drinks.
needs her drinks.
Dean eats her drinks. Okay. Dean
And
eats her drinks. I have both of those.
I do not have that one.
Oh me. Ooh, this
But
is starting to get a little dangerous.
mm, I had the summoning ritual though, so I will enjoy that. Mhm.
All
All
right. While we
right.
have it paused, you can't see it in this shot, but when the camera turns around to go the other way, they're filming outside of a motel, and this is a location that they're going to come back to again and again. And it's always really recognizable because over the doors, there's this like three-tiered step pyramid pattern. So it's every time they film here, it's like, oh, there's that motel again.
I will definitely have to keep my eye out for that one.
Yeah, that one's so okay. Hitting play.
Hitting play. So I love this scene. So I'm not they're going back and forth like I'm never going to get back going back here again. It's like you are a ghost hunter, but I've never seen a real ghost before. But here's our big ticket item: money, fame, sex with girls. Okay. And I'm like, and, and then he goes, WWBD, what would Buffy do? And I'm like, okay, number one, if you're having sex with anything that is not human, I don't want to think about it. And
Well, yeah. So okay. I'm going to pause this a second because now Sam and Dean have arrived at the trailer, but
yes.
I don't know that they're implying that they're having sex with beings other than other human beings. I I think that it's a with a partner. Like, not that
It's
they're
like,
not
oh,
having
wait.
sex
I was going to say, we could be actually having sex with a person
with
versus uh,
partners versus all by our lonesome.
ours and yeah, I was
Which
debating
I think
whether to go.
kind of I'm interrupting, I'm sorry.
No. I was debating whether to go there or not. It's like, yeah, we could actually not have to do this ourselves.
Yeah, somebody else might help us out here. But I think what we can see here is that, Zedmore, the AJ Buckley's character, the one with the beard, is really he's really kind of pushing. He's the
Yes.
one. Spangler is like, I don't know, man, this is kind of scary. This is out of our league. Like, I don't think we can do this. Buffy's so much stronger than I am. and Zedmore is the one who's really like kind of the driving force behind this, and he's like, we can,
we can just. He
this
is
is
definitely
how we get.
he is definitely the antagonist.
He's the one really kind of pushing for them to do this. um So Sam and Dean, we're gonna hit play in a second here, but so
Yeah.
Sam and Dean have come to the trailer. They're looking for the Hellhound's Lair boys. Uh, excuse me. And um, they,
And
if you get a chance, take a look at the bumper stickers on the trailer. Like there's crazy stuff going on here.
so yeah, but and of course, in typical Dean fashion, Dean definitely has a plan. So
They have a plan.
yes.
There's a
So
flamingo.
look at that flamingo. That is a freaking huge flamingo. So first they're just trying to get them to shut the website down, which of course they know they're not going to succeed on. But and then they're like, well, we could tell them about the secret and all that.
And Dean is like, shh, shh, Sam, don't tell him. Don't tell him. Don't tell him.
Yeah, because of course first they try to do the, well, people are getting hurt, but we have an obligation to our fans. So then they're like, all right, plan B. So all right, you're right. I guess, well, we could tell them, but then all right, we'll tell you if you agree to shut down the website. And of course, oh yes, we'll shut down the website if you tell us the secret. Yeah. Does anyone else hear the BS in that one?
Oh yeah. And I love this little look though on Dean
Yeah.
and Sam's faces when they're like, man, that was too easy. Like they know these two guys are buying this con hook, line, and sinker. And they're like, we
Yeah.
didn't even have to work hard to get them on board with this.
No. No. So they are they are informing the guys that Mordecai is actually fatally afraid of a particular gun and fatally shot himself with said gun. And they have now taken off to put that all over their website, which was, of course, the plan in the beginning, was to get the guys to do that. So they are
This
now.
little run. He's like, shh, we don't want him to know that we're excited. Like, dude, that ship sailed.
Yep, exactly.
We had a son of a bitch there, which we're gonna come back to in a second, but let's let this play out here.
But I love this. So they're back in another quirky diner,
Another
and Dean is messing with Sam big time with this sort of laughing. I don't know what the hell you would call this thing, like this.
It's a weird plaque where if you pull the string, it's got this weird cackly laugh.
And they're having a couple of beers, and Dean has just discovered he has been super glued to his beer, and Sam is so loving the fact that he just got one over, and that one was a pretty damn good one.
He had to have been fast, man. Like to
Yeah, I was gonna say,
and I love how. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, because super glue doesn't last that long. So like you had to have like done that and gotten it into Dean's hand in a matter of like less than 30 seconds.
He had to have moved pretty quickly, and I really love the way they play this out. Where we've paused it, by the way,
Yeah.
that Dean is not picking up his beer, and Sam keeps drinking from his, and Dean is still not doing it. So finally, Sam like holds out his beer, like cheers to get like he essentially picks tricks Dean into picking it up before the glue
Yeah.
drops.
And he's so proud of himself too. You can see it's like, ha ha, I finally got him.
Okay, so we have a son of a bitch here while we have it paused. Let's
Pause.
see. I have
I
a son of a bitch.
I'm almost
Oh,
positive I don't.
my dance card's getting a little full here.
It usually does.
Mm, it's like the
Do-do-do-do.
Stupornatural cards know that I'm a lightweight and they're trying to push. All right, so I have
I do
three in a
not.
row in two rows.
I have two.
So
I have two in a row, especially but one of them includes the free space.
well, it yes, the first one is always on the house. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I have four in total.
So yeah,
I know you're way ahead of me.
oh boy, I am sort of dangerously ahead of you. Okay, here we go. So the boys think that the Hellhound's lair has been updated and all they have to
Oh,
do now is go back
go
and follow the
in.
story
Yep,
and they're going to have this one
in
wrapped
the
up.
back. Yep. So we are back at the thing. We are back at the at sort of in the woods, and the cops can hear the laughing, and they're like, see, there it is again. I tell you, there's something over here. So they're following the giggles and all, and that, and we discover that the guys have lured the cops away with this stupid ass laughing bass fisherman thing.
Imagine
Like,
the people at the diner, like, looking at the place on the wall with like the gray outline where the plaque used to be, and they're like, take this.
yeah, who the? It's like, okay. I can, I can barely feel. That took almost all the skin off my palm. I'm not touching that with a 10 foot
Yeah,
pole.
like, yeah, because who doesn't love a good masturbation joke? So the boys are in the house looking for Mordecai.
And they can, and you can very clearly hear something like with someone almost like sharpening a blade through the door. And
Zedmore's got his goggles on his head again.
and here's Dumb and Dumber. And
They crack me up.
and and they're like, you open the door. No, you open the door. And he's sitting there with this little video camera for in the days when people actually carried video cameras. And here comes Mordecai, and they're trying to use the bullets, and they're like, wait a second, why didn't the bullets work? And they're like, wait a minute, did you get them? Did you get them? And it's like, did you get it on camera? And they're futzing around with the camera, and suddenly Mordecai knocks the camera down and is going after the guys. And they're like, did you guys post the story? And they're like, yeah, we did, but the website crashed. So, and Dean's like, great, so these guns aren't gonna work at all. Crap. Sam, any
There
brilliant
goes our
ideas?
plan.
Sam, any brilliant ideas now? And so the Ghostbusters are trying to get out of the house. They are failing miserably. And when they are finally confronted with a ghost, they're saying basically the Hail Mary and praying to God. And I'm not saying that sarcastically, that's literally what
No,
they are doing.
no.
And
Attempting to do an exorcism, he's saying the power of Christ compels you, which is from The Exorcist. Uh, we do
you
we
know,
do have a choke here, so we'll come back in a second. We have a choke. And this
And
guy's got to be pretty big if Sam's feet are dangling off the
of the
ground.
ground. And Sam's just like, Dean, Dean, and
Dean with his trusty flamethrower.
oh,
It
yep,
worked in Bugs. Why wouldn't it work here?
here exactly. So he's improvising. He said, Mordecai can't leave the house, so we're going to burn the house down.
Burn the house down.
It's down.
Burning down the
In the
house.
house. So they run out of the house, and you see Mordecai kind of standing there, and you see sort of him disintegrate, and it's like, okay, well, Mordecai can't come out of the house, and we'll burn the house down. And Sam goes, well, if the legend changes and he can leave the house, then Dean goes, well, then we'll come back.
Yeah, I
It's
love
like,
this. You can't haunt a house if there's no house to
no
haunt.
house to haunt. Mm-hmm.
This is my favorite line in the
Yeah.
episode, though. Go ahead.
How many of these things that we've hunted have existed just because people have thought about them?
People believed in them. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we did. Okay, no, that's coming up. All right, so let's take a look at our. I'm trying to hit pause and nothing is happening. There we go. Let's take a look at our cards and see if either one of us has a choke.
I don't think I do.
I'm hoping I don't.
Yep, I do.
Oh, good for you. Yay. Uh, oh, I do not. I'm pretty happy about that.
Okay, so yes, I have a choke.
Okay, so we've got a choke for you. And so okay, so now the house has been burned down. I thought for a moment about whether or not we could call this burning a body, and I leaned towards no because
No.
it's a tulpa. It's not a
Yeah.
tulpa. But that it doesn't really have a body. So I lean
No.
towards no.
It's definitely there's no actual bones.
There's no. Well, I mean we've stretched a bit on this one a time or two, but yeah, I'm leaning towards no. Okay.
Well,
So
that
no.
and also he kind of evaporates into the air beforehand. If he didn't do that, I might having it like if you saw him sort of go up in flames, but he kind of almost evaporates to get out of the flames.
Yeah. Yeah. So all right. We're saying no. The judges have declared it a no. But here we are
Back at the
back at the
trailer.
campground, and they've
Yep.
got snacks because they have the munchies.
So,
And Spangler and Zeddmore have the munchies, so they've got grocery bags filled with snacks.
because they have gotten a very important phone call from a producer who said that they are going to be able to write and produce their motion picture as the video game. So they're off to La La Land
And
so, and as they say, it's all about talent, unabashed talent.
we did get an awesome from Dean
Awesome.
here, which we'll come to in just a moment. Uh,
Yeah. And like he
Spangler
goes,
and Zedmore
phew.
here, the car that they drive off in, we're going to see that later in the series, a different color. So keep your eye out for that car when she comes back.
So, and then Sam has the confession to make that he was the producer that called, and Dean goes, "Well, I was the one who threw the dead fish in the back in the back seat." So Sam goes, truce. He goes, well, truce for at least the next 100 miles.
600 miles. Which I do love this that um the way the two brothers come at pranking is very, I think, very characteristic of their personalities. That like Sam has, created this ruse and impersonated a Hollywood producer and convinced them to drive all the way to California. And Dean just chucks a dead fish in their car. He's a
Mhm.
man of action and few words. He's just gonna chuck a dead fish in the car. The song that's playing as the boys are pulling out of this parking lot here is another Blue Oyster Cult song called "Burnin' for You," which are, if you're watching this on Netflix, you would not be listening to as they drive away. But so this is the second Blue Oyster Cult song from this episode. We previously got one in Faith. We got the Reaper from BOC in that episode. Um, so we've got some fun BOC stuff here. So there go
And
the boys.
there go the boys.
They're driving away. So that is our episode. Let's check our cards and see if either one of us have an
I have a.
awesome.
I do.
You have an awesome. Good for you. I am having a little trouble focusing on it. It's not as bad as last episode, though. Last episode was too many. Okay, I do not. I do not have any more. So, okay, the most I have is 3 in a row. How did you do?
Most I have is two in a row.
2 in a row. Okay, and I have a total of 2, 5, 7, 8.
I have two, four, six.
Okay, so I appear to have lost by the least. Still no 5 in a rows for us though.
Nope.
Well, hopefully if you're playing along with us, you've done better than we have. Okay, Lynn, one thing you loved and one thing you hated.
So you are going to disagree with me on this one
That's
profusely.
okay. That's
Remember,
allowed.
remember how I was trying to remember the episode of the one other one I really was strongly not my favorite episode. This is it. This is it. So I watched this with your nephew, and at the end, we literally looked at each other and went, "That's it? That's how
So,
they're going to end it?"
so say more about that. What would you have wanted to see?
So what I didn't like was the ending. I felt it was a rushed, lazy ending. It was
Okay.
like because Dean kind of says it himself, where it's like, yeah, it's a quick and easy alternative to just burn it down. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, yeah, that's a quick and simple alternative. Because like we kept waiting for something else to like jump out or something. It's like,
Mm.
come on, there's no way it's that easy. No way.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I watched it the second time, and actually then the third time for in preparation for this, he was like, yeah, it's a faster, not traditional way to do this. It's like, yeah, it's a lazy way to do it.
Mm.
In my viewpoint, it's a. So I'm like, okay, could they not come up with a better way to kill him? Because I just, as I said, I felt like it was a very lazy ending.
Okay. You're allowed. You're allowed. So, anything about it at all that you loved?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I loved the pranking. I thought it added a lightness to the episode
Mhm.
that frankly was needed
Mhm.
because, as I said, in between the dealing with Dumb and Dumber and all that, I liked the lightness of the who could outdo who, and the fact
Mhm.
that Sam got the last one in. I loved it.
Mm.
I absolutely loved that. And he got him good too, which was the best, which was the best part of it. So yeah,
I mean, you're not wrong. My opinion of this one is different than yours, which is totally
yeah.
to be expected that you and I are gonna like different things about different episodes. I just think again, absolutely every second that Spangler and Zeddmore are on screen, I'm dying laughing. I think they are absolutely hilarious. And for me, the thing that you hated is one of the things that I really love about it. That like this first season, these two guys without their dad, and okay, they had been hunting with their dad. They're not rookies, but we're going to see later on that um John was not always entirely forthcoming. Where we find the boys in this first season is the two of them just trying to figure shit out.
Oh
And they don't know. Is this going to work? I don't know. Let's try it. Is how do we stop the ghost truck? Let's lure it onto holy ground. Is that going to work? Boy, I hope so. So with them, like, okay, they have a plan. It's a good plan. The plan all falls apart, and now they've got to fly by the seat of their pants. And, like, okay, what are we going to do? Well, can't haunt a house if there's no house to haunt. So, acknowledging your, legitimate interpretation of this, that this was just kind of a lazy ending. For me, it speaks to where the boys are at this point in their um life's time as hunters, in their sort of journey to becoming like, not that they're not badasses now, but 15 seasons from now, they're going to be virtually unstoppable. Um, and so we get to see them here where they're facing a pretty steep learning curve without
yeah,
dad. And so that it's something that I actually really like about this one. I think that Carester Carester Driss Long, Director Driss Long shot this so stylishly. It's a
yeah,
gorgeous episode. It's honestly, I think it's a shame that this is the only one that he does. Why this is the only one that he does, it could be any number of things that I don't have any knowledge about, but it's I think it's just a beautifully shot episode. The only thing I could come up with from this episode that I hated is when Sam and Dean go back into the house thinking, okay, all they have to do is fire these special wrought iron rounds, and that's going to take care of the ghost, or Tulpa, it's not a ghost. Dean starts out holding his gun this way, and then when he starts to actually shoot at the ghost, he's holding it this way. And there was a period of time where you saw that a lot in films. You still see it on occasion, in films, and it's supposed to look tougher, but the reality is it's no person trained how to use a firearm properly by a Marine is going to carry his firearm that way. And so every time I see this episode and I see Dean shooting, I can't stick my arm out all the way or
yeah,
I'm gonna punch the camera off. But, with that
yeah.
where he's holding the pistol horizontally, I just I like, it just makes me grind my teeth. I'm like, there's no way Dean Winchester holds a pistol that way. Like, John would have smacked him in the back of the head if he'd even tried it. Like, it drives me crazy. And that's it. That is the one thing I can come up with about this episode that bothers me. And yeah, I never would have come up with this episode from the clues you were trying.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, it was just. I'll admit, I liked it more the more I watched it,
Mm,
but if it wasn't for the fact that Dean makes the comment of, yeah, it's I can't remember the quote exactly, but like the yeah, it's if he had just left it at he can't haunt a house if there's no house to haunt. If he had just left it there, it'd be like, okay, that makes sense. Like leave it there. That okay, that then makes sense to why you did it that way. The fact that he then made the line of, as I said, well, it's not a conventional way, but it's the simple way to do it. It's like, oh, come on. Had he just left that line out, I would have been significantly better with the ending.
okay.
That
And
one line.
I
That one.
respect where you're coming from. My
Yeah.
perception is different,
Oh, I
which
know.
is
Yeah, no. Oh,
fine.
believe me. As I said, we both said it. We're not.
We're not
This
always going to agree.
podcast would be damn boring if we always agreed.
Indeed. Tell us in the comments what you think.
Yeah,
We would love to hear from you. So, on that note, I'm calling that last call
definitely.
because I haven't had enough. I'm going to have one more. Thanks so much for coming along with us for the ride. If you like what we're doing here, be sure to tell your friends. Please also like our videos and subscribe so it's easier for other people to find us too. We love hearing from our supernatural family. You can always send us an email at hunterfuelpodcast@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hunter Fuel Podcast. In our next episode, we will be watching season 1, episode 18, Something Wicked, when the brothers learn never to mess with a lady who's sleeping with her peepers open. Until then, stay safe, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye bye.